disobeys the law of the land. What are you talking about here?
Well, you remember Nancy Pelosi's famous statement that we have to pass Obamacare, and then you'll find out what's in it. And then when Republicans started to hack away at Obamacare because it's very unpopular, Obama said, you have to obey it. It's the law of the land. And they act like it's been upheld by the Supreme Court, and that really is not true. The Supreme Court upheld only two parts of it, which is they rewrote the penalty to call it a tax, and all those months Obama was saying it wasn't a tax, but now the Supreme Court said the penalty you have to pay if you don't do what you're told is really a tax. And then the other thing the Supreme Court upheld was that it is unconstitutional to force the states to expand their Medicaid, which is very costly. But the rest of it is still on the chopping block. And there are all kinds of cases heading up toward the Supreme Court about the other parts of Obamacare. But the one who really disobeys the law is Obama, because a couple of features of the law that are in there, like the dates at which you have to sign up for your the kind of insurance that Obama approves, he changes that, although the law does not giving that authority. And I think it's absolutely amazing. You know, there are several times that the state attorneys general have joined in signing a letter criticizing Obama for disobeying the law.
Yeah.
And you know, the U.S. Constitution says the prime duty of the president is to take care that the laws are faithfully executed. And he thinks he can just pick and choose.
Where can we read this column? Is it at your Eagle Forum website?
My Eagle Forum website is eagleforum.org,
Right.
eagleforum.org, and all kinds of information there. I've written a lot about Obamacare and all these other subjects that you like to talk about.
Phyllis Schlafly is our guest, and she's the one that wrote this column. Folks, I want you to understand just for a moment, I'll take just a minute here and explain to you why this is important. I know many of you already know this, it's elementary, but just to explain what's at stake here and what Phyllis is talking about. We have a constitutional process in this country of passing laws, and it has to be passed by the House, by the Senate, signed by the President. The President doesn't like what the House and the Senate send him, he can veto it. There's a process for overriding a veto. So there's an orderly majority wins out process to passing laws in this country. Whether you like it or not, the Obamacare law was passed a 3, 4 years ago because the Democrats were able to pass it with all Democrats, no Republicans. But they passed the law. They didn't know what was in the law. The Democrats didn't, as Nancy Pelosi said, but they passed it nonetheless. It was a monstrosity, but it was government taking care, getting involved in the healthcare business, and that's what the Democrats wanted and had wanted for a long time. They wanted single payer, but that's another story. We're not able to get that. But here's the situation.
Well, there are people who think that what they pass simply will not work, and when people realize it will not work,
I agree
then
with
they'll
that.
go for single payer.
I think that's probably what their aim and objective. But let me just real quickly. Here's the problem, folks. Whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, what I'm about to say should matter to you greatly. And there have been even some liberal websites, very few, but have written on this. What President Obama is doing with this law is he's changing the law by himself as we go along, okay? Changing dates, as Phyllis said, changing provisions, allowing exemptions. He is being the king. He's deciding when the law will be implemented, when it won't. He does not have that constitutional authority. If you want to amend a law, you have to go back to Congress to do it. President Obama doesn't do that. He doesn't care. He he issues executive orders. He decides when things are going to take place and when they aren't. The Republicans offer a weak resistance, if any at all, which is sad for us as Americans and tragic for us as Americans. You would think the opposition party would at least raise objections on a president changing the law when he can't do that. He's not supposed to be able to do that. So the president said here, Phyllis, is a loss of the constitutional process, and the power now with the presidency is getting almost king-like.
Yes, he is acting like a dictator, and he thinks he can do by regulation. Now, we have three branches of government, and the elected part, the legislative branch, is supposed to make the laws, and then the executive part is supposed to carry them out. But Obama thinks that he can just change all the laws by having his
he's getting away. He's getting away with
branch.
it. He is getting away with it, though, Phyllis. Nobody. I mean, I've heard maybe a couple, three Republicans offer up, objection to him changing these dates and so forth, but nobody's taken him to court to say you can't do this.
No, that's right, and I agree that the Republicans are not showing enough fight and leadership, and I think what he's doing is so outrageous, and particularly his famous lie that
yes.
you can keep your insurance that you have if you like it, period. And, in all this writing I do, I often consult Bartlett's familiar quotations, and I think that phrase is going to have an eternal life in books of familiar quotations, because it was so outrageous, and everybody, even the left-wing media admit it was a lie.
Right.
Phyllis, here we are. We're sort of stuck in President Obama's second term. He disobeys the law of the land. He gets away with it somehow. I mean, he's got the media basically in his corner. What's to be done? Or do we just simply have to take this until we get a chance to have somebody else in the White House? Is there a way to fight back?
Well, I think the American family can do a whole lot, because what I hear from around the country is that the grassroots are very depressed. They know we're going down the wrong road, but they're very defeatist about it. They think there's no way back. And I would say we've been through some tough times before, and you need to encourage the grassroots and tell them that you can rise up and reform our government from the grassroots. And we've done that a number of times. I think the nomination of Ronald Reagan was a good example of that. And
the 2010 elections were historic. And that was Americans rising up in opposition to the agenda of President Obama and the Democrats.
I was present at some little town in Mississippi when Don Wildman announced the start of his American Family Association. Just a little group of people, nobody special and important. But I was there when he described what he was going to do, and I knew he had the right tack to go after some of these things. And I've been a fan of Don Wildman ever since.
Thank you, Phyllis. We're talking to Phyllis Schlafly, president, founder of Eagle Forum. We're talking about what's going on in Washington. I will say this: there are in 2010 there was a wave of that went into Washington. They were basically backed by the Tea Party. They were true conservatives. And most of them are all still there, and that's why the Republicans took over the House of Representatives. Now, Phyllis, there is a war, and maybe this has been going on forever here, and I know the Democrats have their own visions, but there is a war in the Republican Party between the conservatives and the establishment, and that's kind of a subset of the political war that's going on in Washington. How do you view that?
Yes, and that's very important, and I've been involved in that war since my book, A Choice Not an Echo, in 1964. And we can win it because they have lots of money, but they don't have all the votes. And I think in defeating the Equal Rights Amendment, we showed that a little small group of women who started in my kitchen on the bluffs of the Mississippi could fight the whole establishment, because everybody was for the Equal Rights Amendment. And so don't be discouraged. But I think the Tea Party people need to learn that you have to be involved in politics. This is our system of self-government. And you have to be involved in party politics, because we have a two-party system, and as Don Rumsfeld said, You go to war with the army you have, not the army you wish you had. So stop standing around and wishing we had some other system or another party
Yeah.
or something. We've got to deal with what we've got and play in politics and fight in politics in order to get our country back on the right track.
Right.
Phyllis, you spent a lifetime in politics. You've been out on the front lines. Here in 2014, you sound optimistic to me in the face of, as you say, there's sort of a prevailing pessimism among many of the frontline troops. Based on your lifetime of experience, what gives you hope and optimism for the future of our country?
Well, I hope that the grassroots will rise up and overturn the power of the establishment. The establishment Republican has given us series of three losers. They want candidates who will do what they're told and who will never talk about the social or moral issues. And it's the social or moral issues that really are at the base of the problem we have to face today. If you're worried, for example, about the spending and the debt, where's the money going? It's going to finance non-marriage and provide incentives to people not to get married. And our country was built on the nuclear family as the stable foundation of our society. That's where people take care of themselves and make their own life. And we can do it again, but we have to get rid of all this depression and pessimism that I see and you see as we go around the country.